As you know, I make most of my videos, if not all my videos, for the average person. A lot of people are confused about the differences between a modified sine wave inverter and a pure sine wave inverter. I'm going to explain that to you in layman's terms, simple terms so you can understand it. A pure sine wave inverter, picture you riding a bike on a perfectly flat, smooth surface, and that would be a pure sine wave inverter. Modified sine wave inverter, you're riding that bike uphill, or maybe even trying to ride up a flight of stairs. There is a power difference. Pure sine wave produces clean power, basically what your wall outlet puts out. Now, in some cases, a pure sine wave inverter is even cleaner than what your wall outlet puts out. Modified sine wave inverter is a dirty power. It will run most things a pure sine wave will run. One of the big differences is the price. For an extremely good modified sine wave inverter, you're looking at $350. For a very good pure sine wave inverter, you can be looking at the thousands. For a good sine wave inverter, you could be looking at not the best, just a good sine wave inverter. You could be looking at somebody's rent for the month, or even the price of a good used car. So, I don't make my videos for people with 15, 20 grand to spend on solar or to buy all this stuff. I make my videos for people who, is your average person who wants to have an external power source, an extra power source, in case the lights go out. Now, I'm going to talk about real quick the big mistakes people make when buying an inverter. It depends on what you're powering your inverter off of. If you have a small battery bank, you don't need a 2500 watt inverter. Can you use one? Yes, if you're not going to use it a lot. I have two batteries, 400 watts of solar. I have four inverters. What I am going to run will depend on the inverter I use. You do not have to do this, but understand, if you're going to run an inverter off, say, your car your car alternator, then a 2500 watt inverter is a waste of money. Your car alternator does not put out 2500 watts. I have a 90 amp alternator that will put out like 980 watts. So, I have a video of me running a 700 watt microwave off of my 1100 watt inverter off of my Vance alternator. To get it to run, I do have to press the gas down to make sure that alternator's spinning. If not, it'll, say it's low power, because that's not enough power to actually run that unless that alternator's spinning at a good speed. Once again, the mistakes people make is they buy an extremely large inverter or too small of an inverter. If you're running a 700 watt microwave, an 1100 watt to 1500 watt inverter should do you just fine. I would not go with 1,000. That may or may not work in some cases, but you have to understand, if you're running it off a vehicle, how much your alternator puts out. That's the main concern. So you need to size your inverter for whatever power source it's drawing from. If you only have two batteries like me, yes, I can use my 2500 watt inverter on it, but there's only a few limited things that I would run, such as my 1000 watt microwave. Everything else runs just fine off my 1100 watt inverter. My 700 watt microwave can pull off my battery bank with my 1100 watt inverter, so that's no big deal for me. But a mistake people make is they get too large of an inverter and they can't give full power to it, or too small of an inverter, and of course it's not going to carry. But once again, the differences between modified sine wave and pure sine wave are as simple as this. If you're riding a bike on a flat, smooth surface, that's pure sine wave. If you're riding a bike uphill, that's modified. So, and most things I have will run off my modified sine wave inverters. Yes, some things buzz and hum, such as our air conditioner, our microwaves, but they still work just fine. But because of the power difference, the way the power is created, it's not perfect. But once again, modified sine wave inverters are not meant for people with a lot of money. But don't make the mistake of getting too big of an inverter that you can't put full power into, or too small of an inverter that won't carry what you need. Alright, that's it. That's how to explain the difference between modified and pure sine wave in basic layman's terms. And that's telling you some of the mistakes people make when buying an inverter. They either get one too big for what they're pulling from, such as a car alternator or even a small battery bank, or they get an inverter too small that won't power what they need to power. So before you go figuring what you want to run, buy an inverter, you figure out what you want to run. You want to run a laptop. If all you want is a laptop, a small 120 watt inverter should work. Even a 400 watt inverter. If you're wanting to run a microwave, depending on the microwave, you're going to need a large inverter. But if you're running it off a vehicle, you're still limited on the amount of power, just like battery banks. If you have one battery in a battery bank, running a microwave off that is a bad idea. Just like running off your car alternator, you're not going to run a 1500 watt microwave off a car alternator. Anyway, that's it. I'm out of here. Everyone have a good day.